live?
We are live.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm previewing the wrong screen apparently.
Oh.
There we
Our
are.
monitor was not showing.
No, the monitor was not
so
showing.
I wasn't sure. Hello, good friends, shalom and good evening. Welcome to Tabletop Terrain Talks, where we talk about tabletop gaming, terrain, and other nerdy things. I am Hayley Bell, and I am not sitting in the GM's chair.
No, you're not.
Oh my gosh, you guys. Weston is in the GM's chair for what is going on with my camera? It's like not focusing on my face.
It doesn't like to look.
Did
at
you auto zoom?
I don't think so. I can fix it.
Hold on. Okay, and then my face. That's better. Okay. Anyway, I am Hayley, and I am paranoid about my video because I'm paranoid about video. Across from me on this wonderful Monday post-solar or lunar eclipse day.
Yes.
Is Weston.
Hello. I hope you all are excited to see the moon again tonight. Because last night, we couldn't see it at all. There was cloud cover.
Which seriously sucks because we are in the area where we would have had, should have been able to see the totality.
It should have been a really good view.
The total eclipse of the moon, we should have been able to do that, but there was cloud cover.
Which interesting bit of lore, Total Eclipse of the Heart.
Yes.
Was originally written for what was it? Nosferatu the musical.
Yeah, Nosferatu the musical.
Like,
how crazy is
legit.
that?
I was like, oh, you can actually find recordings of it on YouTube.
Yeah, like a full produced
Nosferatu the musical.
It actually, in that context, I actually think it would have been really good.
It works. It fits.
It would have been fun. I wish they'd finished that thing. I enjoyed the night in Florida, but damn, it's still hot. Well, like, how hot? I'm like, we're
pretty warm here right now.
We're getting now into the...
What was it today?
Today, I think it was 70-something. So we're getting into the warmer...
Yeah, Florida was hotter, I imagine.
I imagine Florida was way hotter. Florida's like normally 80-something or 90.
Well, it's the humidity that gets you. That's what... When you're in that humidity...
Yeah, it's true. Anyway, so... That all to say, we didn't get to see the lunar eclipse, even though we were in a place where we should have been able to see it beautifully because of cloud cover.
It happens.
Which was really sad because our 9-year-old was actually set an alarm for when
he was so
excited for when it would be full, like it would be complete.
Which means he wouldn't go to sleep.
He was not going to sleep. So it was 10:11 that he had set the alarm, and I went to tell him the sad news that it was.
You're not gonna be able to see it,
he
dude.
can't
Sorry.
see it, and so we went outside so I could prove it to him, and he was like, "Oh, so sad."
He was sad.
He was really sad. Anyway, so that was our wonderful weekend. Friday night was our 1-year streaming Twitchiversary.
Woo!
I feel like
it went
there needs
awesome.
to be a track that goes like, "Yay!"
We do. We need to have an applause track.
And it's like confetti or something. But it was an absolute success. We managed to hit our goal of $111. Well, that wasn't the goal. That was strangely specific, but $100 was the goal.
It was our first charity stream ever, so I was like, all right, I don't want to set a goal that's like really high and then it's like nowhere near it.
No.
So we're gonna start off low.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Lowercase J. We were really excited about that, like really, and the game was so much fun. And we saw my my sister and brother-in-law on Sunday, so we got to kind of reminisce and talk about it. And I'll be honest, I don't think my sister is going to be a D&D player. She kind of was like, I was really happy to do that with you guys. I love you. I'm not doing it again.
It's hard because like you ask
I know.
She is deaf, and so hearing over the stream can be difficult.
Because in person, she actually has better hearing than I do.
Does she?
Based on her audiograms, yeah.
Your hearing's that bad?
Mm-hmm. She hears better than I do. So, like, that was, like, I forget because she hears better than I do in person. So, I'm, like, on tech, like, stream stuff, it's a totally different story when it's electronic and it's whoa, hey, what's up? I am very loud now.
You're not coming through very strong on the audio.
Oh.
Your audio's not coming through very strong for some reason.
Am I quiet, you guys? I don't mean to be quiet. I'll get closer to the mic. Anyway. So we were very happy about our very first charity stream. We may be doing those again in the future, just because it was a lot of fun. And we had a lot of people come join us, and that was cool.
Well, and it was my first time GMing or DMing in Dungeons and Dragons 5e. Because we've always done Pathfinder. Mm-hmm. So it was first foray into Dungeons and Dragons.
Yep, it was awesome. Anyway, so this week we don't have... Oh, see, lowercase j says I sound good.
Yep.
We don't have anything real special going on. We kind of got through all of our big events.
I guess the one thing is I will pick up GMing again for our persistent campaign of the Scions. And then I will continue until the end of this campaign.
Which will be however long it needs to be.
Might be a little bit.
Might be a little long, depending on what Anna does. But we are going to be taking a couple of months off between campaigns, so that the homebrew world is completely created. But we are not going to stop doing our Monday night streams.
Nope, we'll be here. But we'll probably throw in some one shots and things like that in the midst of that, because there's no way I'm going a couple of months without playing.
No, that's true.
That ain't gonna happen.
But maybe that'll give me the chance to finally really focus on my novel.
Maybe.
Because, I don't have time to do that now. Anyway, so I think that is all that we have in terms of, we have, no announcements. The podcast is being updated. I actually just got a few more episodes ready to download and to do the things and stuff. So, yeah.
One thing I would say is stay tuned. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe and follow us on Twitter, because we will be announcing in the next probably couple of weeks another show.
Are we talking about that?
We at least need to, that will be up and coming. We're still in development of it, but we are looking at another show in collaboration with another channel.
Yes. A channel collab for a show. I didn't realize we were talking about this yet at all.
We're 1 month from when we're planning, so.
Oh, we probably should start talking about it.
We should start talking about it.
Yeah,
so if you aren't following Hayley on Twitter, that will probably be where updates will be sent out. Then make sure you follow.
Yeah, go follow us. Our handles are on the side. And something like this would definitely go on our main channel. But you can follow me personally, Hayley M_Bell. I am very active on that. And you may get information about the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial, because I'm strangely fascinated with it. If you follow that.
Oh, so Hayley saw
the squirrel.
There's a squirrel.
Shush.
Or shiny objects.
Shiny objects. I'm more like a raccoon.
There we go.
Because raccoons do that.
But yeah, I think that is all that we have. One thing I will say, so we will be posting that charity stream episode.
It's already on YouTube.
It's already on YouTube.
It's on the tubers.
If you would like to get to meet the characters we'll be playing for our next campaign, they're in that episode.
Yep, they are. This is the very first introduction of the cute little...
Yep, it is an introduction to the homebrewed world of Valley Toss that we'll be having our campaign in, and even our characters. This acted as somewhat of a zero session, or session 0, mainly for Hayley's character.
Yeah, because the other two that joined us are not really going to be in the campaign.
Well, and it was your character in the campaign is going to be playing a multi-class of Paladin and Warlock.
Multi-class.
And we tell the story of how you made your pact.
Yes, it's pretty cool actually. It was a fun session. Yay, Lost Tribes Gaming, you just won 5 points. Woohoo!
Which you can use to bomb people.
All right, so I think that is good. So let's go into TTRPG news.
Oh, no, you have to stall for a moment while I update the date.
I mean, we're not going into TTRPG news. There was singing and dancing on Friday night. There was dice throwing because I got really ticked off in my D20 that could not roll above a 10.
It was bad.
So that happened.
It was one of those nights where you just could not roll.
I was so mad, and it was my favorite dice, too. I felt so betrayed.
Oh, I'm sorry. All right, we're ready now.
Now we're ready for TTRPG news.
Hello, welcome to TTRPG News. Today, Monday, May 16th. And I'm going to fix your camera real
And
quick.
our tech person is going to be fixing our camera, so I will take over doing the news. So for our first major rundown, D&D Beyond will be removing Volo's Guide to Monsters and Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes. If you already have the books, you won't have to take any action. They're not going to remove it. It might be changed slightly.
Yeah.
Like the stats might change and whatnot. But the books themselves will still be available if you have purchased them. The reason that they are removing these, they say, is because the monsters of the multiverse are it's
multiverse.
Multiverse. Okay,
Like they're trying to marvel it.
A news broadcast. Yes, you're here to watch it. So they say that the reason is because that book, Monsters of the Multiverse, have all of the monsters in it compiled into one thing. So they're going to discontinue even publishing the other books. However, there are a lot of critics that are saying that this is just another money grab because they're not really changing
It's the same content.
information.
It's the same freaking content.
Yeah.
And they're changing some weird stuff. Like they took all small creatures, now go 30 feet instead of 25.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're a centaur, you can still go 40 feet.
So they didn't extend everybody's
well,
movement.
they brought everyone up to 30, but there are those that are faster than 30. So why do that? They also made it to where pretty much everything now you can select. It's kind of like the custom lineage where you can select to take, I think it's like 3+1s or 1+2 and 1+1 or something like that. Like you're not tied into certain things. I understand in one aspect because if I want to play that race, because from a role play perspective, but it doesn't fit with the build. Okay, there's something about playing suboptimal characters. Get over it. But also, then what's the point? Then everything's just flavor text.
Yeah.
Everything's just flavor text. And what's the point of all the races? In that case, just have custom lineage. Pick whatever lineage you want, and just give them these bonuses. Like, I don't get it.
Exactly.
But I do know it's got pretty much every monster except for I think like 2.
Yeah. So that's a thing that's happening on D&D Beyond. Weston, in other D&D Beyond news.
In others, so the switch over. So we announced last week that all D&D Beyond accounts will become Wizards of the Coast accounts. They're going to be merging their database in a way. That happens they say on or after May 18th. Now, of course, they expect a smooth transition, but the developers do say just be kind of ready in case there's any glitches.
And please be patient.
Yeah, I work in software development. I agree completely. Expect glitches will always happen.
Yep.
So just I hope you aren't running a game on the 18th or 19th using D&D Beyond as your main thing, because you might have some issues. So maybe be ready. Print off your character sheet and have it ready in hand just in case.
Yeah, and just to give you guys a little bit of context, that's in 2 days.
Yep.
So this isn't something that's happening far off. It's in 2 days. So that's a whole thing. All right. So on May 19th as well, for a limited time of 7 days afterwards, users can download the source book Acquisitions Inc. completely for free. This book is based on the exploits of the adventuring party of the same name that debuted back in 2008 as part of a collaboration with Wizards of the Coast and Penny Arcade. Also, a second free book will be available on D&D Beyond starting May 19th. And this is the adventure...
Lost Mines of
Fendelver?
Yeah.
The Lost Mines of Fendelver. This was originally a starting adventure included in the Essentials Kit, intended to help new players and DMs get a basic understanding of a Dungeons & Dragons campaign.
I know they're doing the new starter box. So this is probably not in the new one. This is probably was in the old one. And so they're going to give it away for free.
That makes sense because they're updating the entire starter box.
So I imagine that's the reason why they're doing this.
That makes total sense. It's good though for new players to have
free content.
to have free content to get into the game itself.
Yep. Also, another non-Wizards of the Coast news. This month is actually Paizocon. So Hayley and I are both players of Pathfinder. So we are fans of Paizo. So Paizocon 2022.
Oh, hold on. Lost Tribes Gaming is asking where they can get that.
D&D Beyond.
D&D Beyond.
So
It's available.
I would check
D&D
D&D Beyond and
starting
Wizards of
May
the Coast
19th.
Website.
I would not be surprised as well if it was available on Drive-Thru-RPG. Or the other one, not Drive-Thru-RPG.
I think...
What's DM's Guild? There we go.
I actually think it won't be.
Really?
And here's the reason why. This is a push. They've done a big push because they're also giving out some monsters, free monsters from the Monsters in the Multiverse. Mm-hmm. If you have your Wizards of the Coast account, it's a push for more people to get for D&D Beyond and Wizards to get your email addresses to use in marketing efforts for D&D Beyond materials.
That makes sense. So
my guess is it's there. You'll need to sign up for an account if you don't already have one.
And the initial sign up for D&D Beyond is free.
It is free. Yep, but that's what it is. It's
which means you are the product.
Yep, it's an email capture.
All right.
So Paizocon will be it's scheduled for Memorial Day weekend, so on the 27th to 29th at the Doubletree in Seattle, Washington. Seattle?
Yep.
I don't know where that is. It's not Seattle. I copied this straight from Paizo's site.
I get
For those unavailable to make the trek in person, they're also pleased to announce that they'll be doing it online, and the online one is actually longer. So it goes through the 30th. They're going to be doing lots of actual plays, lots of panels and such. So if you are a Paizo fan, either Starfinder or Pathfinder, you can find out a lot about what's coming up there. A lot of new announcements are going to come through. So,
and they are doing a ton of streamed games as well.
Which, if you are a creator in Paizo materials, Starfinder or Pathfinder, I know they're always, looking for people to engage on that level, even last minute. So I would. Sometimes people suddenly can't do their shows, or people don't have player that shows up. So if you want to be in on that, I would stay connected, and if possible, join their Discords. Yeah,
for sure. But 2022 is the 20th anniversary.
Yep, it's their 20th anniversary.
Aww.
So hopefully some big announcements and some cool stuff.
Hopefully. Do you think they'll talk about any rumblings of a third edition?
No, they're not ready for a third edition.
I was just wondering.
Second edition.
I know. I was just wondering.
No, but I think they've been popping out lore books
like
so
crazy.
fast and so quick. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if they took a break from that.
Yeah.
Because they had so many.
They had
books
quite a few books dropped this year.
The options for Pathfinder are ridiculous. They're quickly amazing. After it started.
Amazing, ridiculous. Yes. That's redonkulous. Speaking of Pathfinder, so Lost Omens, Knights of Last Wall, which is a book, is dropping on May 25th. The PDF is available, and it is currently available, has been made available to a few YouTubers and content creators within the Pathfinder community. And it is a pretty dang cool book.
It is, yeah.
It's amazing. So this is the quote from the things in the stuff. Fulfill your oath. When the armies of the Whispering Tyrant marched on Lastwall, the keeps and cities may have fallen, but its people and their spirit did not falter. Lost Omens, Knights of Lastwall takes a detailed look at the knights that took up arms and continue to fight against the undead hordes and evils that roam the world. This book presents information on the Last Wall organization, from joining the ranks to knightly training to the missions to protect the innocent and defeat evil. The book will also feature new rules content, including new equipment, magical items, spells, and support for Knights of Last Wall archetypes for players who want to play a knight in their own campaigns. This is picking up after the events of the actual play game that was done for the release of Pathfinder 2nd Edition.
Yep, it is. It's interesting stuff about the Whispering Tyrant, a lot of stuff in there. I do agree with something that Lost Tribes Gaming said about why he thinks Paizocon will have a lot. He thinks it'll have more 5e. compatible stuff. And I think that will probably be true, considering they made a specific point of stating that. Okay, suddenly I couldn't hear myself.
Like you suddenly stopped. Like what just happened?
Suddenly I couldn't hear myself and it sounded weird. But that the mechanics that are introduced in this book for organizing a knightly order will work in any world and in any system.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty cool.
So I think they are definitely going to be, and that's probably a really good catch there, Lost Tribes Gaming. I imagine we're going to see more 5e compatibility put into this next year for Paizocon. Honestly, I think 2nd edition needs some time to breathe.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it only came out like 2 years ago.
They've released 4 books
3 years ago.
Last year that I can remember.
There's
5.
Guns and Gears, Secrets of Magic.
We had 3 Grand Bazaar. We had Book of the Dead. We had
the city one, Absalom.
Yeah. Actually, I think we had 6. We had 6 or 7 books from Paizo in the last 12 months. I think that Paizo needs to let 2nd edition breathe a little bit.
Maybe they'll finally do 2nd edition for Starfinder. Because that one's been hanging out for a hot second. That one's been hanging out
for a while.
So, anyway, but that'll be in a speculation episode where we just talk about Paizo stuff.
But definitely be there for Paizocon. Check it out. You can check it out on their Twitch channel. It's where they'll be having everything. So just go and check them out on Twitch. On the, remind myself of those dates, the 27th through the 30th of May.
Awesome. And that is it for today's episode of TTRPG News.
All right.
Now we get to talk about the fun stuff. No, I'm just kidding. Because the other stuff was fun.
The other stuff was fun, but now we get into this main discussion topic.
Now we get to get into the stuff that people get a little hot and heated about.
Yes. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and we're gonna change the screen. Real quick.
We're changing screens.
Gotta change the screen.
Are we gonna keep the happy music? The happy lo-fi
No, we
music?
should get in some dark, deep.
No, we don't need
maddening music. You should be mad.
It's a madhouse. A madhouse.
Doctor Strange. Now, I would like to reiterate. This is a spoiler-filled.
This is your spoiler warning. If you have not seen Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, either hop off or know that you're going to have things spoiled for you. We are not holding anything back because we want to use this movie as an example of too many plots, too many characters, no consistency.
I will say, if you have not seen it, I would
save your money.
Maybe we can save you some money. Like, what was the comment I made to you when we came out of the movie?
There were a lot of comments.
You're like, so what did you think about it? And I stated, I think I would have liked it as a show that I would watch on streaming while I was working.
Yes, that is exactly what you said. You're like, this is a great background show.
This is a great background show
because doing something else.
Don't pay too much close attention because
it doesn't make sense anyway.
Yeah, it's a spectacle.
Yeah. And in that regard, so we're talking storytelling and plotting. And as a GM or a DM, you are solely responsible for creating a plot and story for a table of individuals and weaving all of that together into something consistent and whole.
Yeah.
That can be a really difficult thing. I don't know if everybody else has experienced that.
It can be.
But for me, when I was GMing, when we had our guests on, and I was trying to weave all of the backstories together, agreed. I don't agree with the Illuminati, what they did with the Illuminati either. It was such a piece of... Okay, sorry, we're going to get into that. But doing that is very difficult, where you're putting everything together. And when I was GMing, I found it. But... it's very rewarding when you manage to get everything together and all the puzzle pieces fit and it just clicks, because that one episode or that one session that we had.
Oh
where
yeah, the one in the
when we were in the underworld in the boneyard, it's like everything clicked. It was so beautiful. It was emotional, and it was like that. In my opinion, still is the best GMing I've ever done.
It was an awesome session.
But we are going to use Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness as an example of how not to do this thing. How to not take a bunch of things. Because it was such a disappointment. And it was like, it could have been so good. It felt like somebody's D&D campaign where they like had take months off in between and they don't totally remember what's happened.
You know, I could see that. I could see that, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're gonna start this, and I want to start. So we're gonna start off early. So in the opening scenes.
Seriously, we are gonna break down the whole movie. So if you have not seen it yet and you care, hop off.
So.
But don't hop off. Hang out with us, please.
You've got an alternate version. If you're watching any of the MCU, know they've got the alternate realities, multiverse. This is the whole thing. Mm-hmm. You got what's called Defender Strange, which is an alternate world Doctor Strange.
With they another. Also didn't explain.
Yeah, they didn't explain that at all. Half of this movie, I will say, is there's a problem you have whenever you're adapting something that already exists. Mm-hmm. It's how much love do you give to the source material?
Yeah.
And how much love do you give to the people that haven't watched any of the source material?
Mm-hmm.
This Wheel of Time, the TV show, is an example, and Sword of Truth, or Legend of the Seeker, I think is what it was called on TV, are great examples
so bad.
I'm going to completely abandon source material 100% and
now we're just loosely basing.
And then on the other side, you have one that requires you to have Doctor Strange the Multiverse of Madness is a better payoff if you read the comics, watched every single movie, watched every single Disney Plus show.
Mm-hmm.
If you've done all of that, there's a lot more nods and a lot more things that will make sense to you.
Mm-hmm.
If you haven't done every single one of those, it doesn't work. It's like dropping tons of D&D lore tidbits in your campaign that go to like larger D&D lore without any explanation as to why that matters.
It's just like throwing it out there.
It's just throwing it out there.
Like just to do it.
Which isn't bad.
No.
But when it's a storyline point, then it makes it kind of okay.
I do want to, before we totally get into it though, I do want to say there were some things going for this movie that were like so incredible. The visual spectacle that is this movie is unreal. The visual effects, the CGI stuff, like everything that they did, they created such a beautiful movie. And then on the opposite side, also because it's Sam Raimi, there's also elements of horror. And the spirit section that they did at the end of the movie, like near the climax of the story, it was so cool. It was so cool.
Well, I thought the tunnel scene, the sewer scene was straight up zombie horror movie.
Yep, straight up. There were a couple of sections that are straight up zombie, but it's beautiful visually. The movie itself is wonderful. The acting I actually felt like was pretty good in most cases, but you can't fix, as an actor, you cannot fix storyline issues.
Yeah. Well, or just badly written lines.
Or just badly written lines and like badly written characters.
I don't mind cheese. But some of the lines in this movie was that was a stinky cheese.
Oh,
that was a gross, stinky cheese.
Yeah.
Right?
So I wanted to just throw it out that we don't feel like we're not panning the entire movie. We're specifically talking about the stories.
So here's where you're introduced. You got Doctor Strange, and then you're introduced to a new character for the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah. America
Chavez. What was your initial reaction to the introduction of this character?
Here's the problem. My writer brain is always turned on now. So, and because it's Disney normally does a pretty good job at making you feel something for a character within 5 minutes. There's a 5-minute rule where you have to hook the audience and give them something to connect to within the first 5 minutes of the movie, or you've pretty much lost them. Disney's very good at doing this most of the time, but this isn't just a Disney movie. This is a Marvel movie. They did nothing to endear us to this brand new character who is going to essentially be the special thing that everybody wants, that everybody's going after. They did nothing to endear us to her. They tried to significantly later in the movie. Sorry, I keep hitting the table. I apologize. But they tried to do it later, but at that point, we did not care. And you can't grab an audience member once you're 3/4 of the way through and say, there's the reason right there as to why you should care about that character. At that point, you don't care at all. Seriously? So that was the biggest problem that I had, is that opening sequence was really cool visually. And it was like, you have Doctor Strange. You can tell, totally different costume, totally different hair. Like, this is a different Doctor Strange. We are smart enough to know that this is a different Doctor Strange. And he gets killed, and at the last second ends up sending her through the gateway that she created, but not before deciding we're going to end this fight, or we're going to lose this fight, but this bad guy can't have your powers, so I'm going to take your powers from you. And completely pragmatically, that actually was the best way to go.
So can someone tell me when Doctor Strange got the ability to just pull powers from a person? Because that would have really been nice during Infinity War.
I know.
Wouldn't it have?
Yeah, that would have been.
I'm just going to take powers from different people. Hey, there's this guy who has, dark magic that's, trying to get the time stone for me. Oh, I can just take powers from people. Huh.
Yes.
I could just take powers from people. That would have been really useful.
Yeah. So
everywhere else in the stories.
And for anyone that I think Seasonal Bard, you just joined us. There's spoiler warning.
Major spoiler warning.
Can you put that on the screen? Yep. Can you just put spoiler warning? Because I don't want anybody to jump in, not know that we're talking about this and whatever. So we off the bat. He cast the spell Deus Ex Machina.
Oh, Lord.
People on Earth, lend me your energy.
Haley, I don't think you'll get that reference.
I think it's funny, though.
It's a Dragon Balls. I believe he's making a Dragon Ball Z comment. In Dragon Ball Z, there's this thing called the Spirit Bomb, where he can pull the energy from the Earth. Well, he's asks all the people of Earth to give him the energy.
Oh, he does. Oh, okay, that's
throw down this thing. So it's just like, where'd you get this ability from? Apparently he leveled up between movies. It's kind of like that thing.
And there's a significant amount of logic, whatever. So he dies by this creepy thing, gets pulled into our world. So now there's America Chavez and dead Doctor Strange who show up on the street, and the real Doctor Strange is attending the wedding. And this is where we're supposed to now get to the emotional connection for the team, and it's at the wedding. Well, she's getting married, and they also did this thing at the beginning where at the very beginning of the wedding, they bring in a doctor from previous who then questions Doctor Strange, did you have to do it this way? Which brings in this idea that there's going to be some type of conflict of him feeling like, well, did I really have to do it that way? But yes, I did. That was the only one I saw. But
and it's questioning his choices.
They never did anything with that.
In a way they did, because the whole rest of the movie is questioning Doctor Strange's ability to make good decisions. Think about the stealing her powers, later on the idea that he used the dark hold in that other dimension. Every single one of them are claiming that Doctor Strange can't make good decisions, or he's always willing to sacrifice everyone else for his decisions. But it was not done cleanly.
No, it wasn't done cleanly, because I was sitting here feeling like they never picked that up again. But I can see that opinion.
But the fact that you didn't see that at all, and I had to think about it a lot to see it, tells you it wasn't very clear. Now, I want to take one step back, though, with the introductions. You said you got to hook them in that first 5 minutes. As a GM or DM, this happens all the time. You have a quest to go save this person, but you have not endeared them at all to this person. You have no endearment at all. You want them to go do this adventure. Now, there's two things that happen, luckily, in D&D. One, we recognize we're adventurers, and we're going to go with adventuring. So, sweet, there's a quest. But if you really want it to be impactful, you need to endear them somehow to the quest, to the people that are there, and then have the thing happen and the quest come from that.
Yeah.
Because this is an example of you didn't endear them right. We all have those experiences where we endeared. There's something we did about an NPC that endeared the players to that NPC.
Yeah.
There was one show I was listening to. I don't remember who it was, but they had this kobold character that was a little NPC, and for some reason they had done something that endeared them real quick to this kobold, and he ended up going with them, leaving with the adventuring party, and being a extra member,
just a little sidekick
for the rest of their campaign. And good storytellers endear quickly to their characters, and so that's one thing that I would say is a learn from. Right here. You can't try and endear way down the road. You gotta endear
it doesn't work.
Real quick. Good example from ours, the Smurf medley, the Deep Gnome sales.
Oh my gosh,
trader
I loved her
down
so
in
much.
the Underdark.
Where I'm suggesting that Az is gonna send her fun dreams.
Yes. and she's like, oh, don't worry, I got boyfriends all over the place.
That was so much fun. That character was so much fun.
Endeared immediately. That is something that as a DM or GM, you gotta
to learn how to do.
If it's an important NPC, endear quickly. And honestly, if it wasn't an important NPC, but you managed to endear quickly, make them an important NPC.
They are now an important NPC.
Make them important as fast as you can, because this is going to then make things mean something more than just we're an adventuring party. Because people always talk about the murder hobos who go off and do something other than what you had planned. Well, the reason they go off and do something other than you planned is because you didn't endear them to the story or to the characters that you did have early on. And if there's if
or
I don't
they're
care,
just jerks.
No, that happens.
Because I know there are certain people that you and I know that we 100% know that no matter what you do as a GM, they're going to be a murder hobo.
True. Very true.
So so we get into this place where they're trying to help us connect emotionally to the situation that, Christine is there and she's getting married and she doesn't look at him while she walks down the aisle. Her eyes are straight for her soon-to-be husband. And I think that was a good beat as a story point of showing she has moved on in the idea that she did not look at him.
And they were trying, and this is again where I feel that they missed the mark, is because I feel like everything they tried to do early on, by the end of the movie, you'd forgotten about it.
Yeah.
Because right here, they're trying to introduce the idea that she has closure, but he doesn't. And so later on, when he goes to another universe and has an opportunity to see her again, it's a chance for him to get closure. But in the middle, you didn't care about that. You can't have it here and then no threads. And then here.
Well, and I'll be honest, I don't feel like they built the relationship to the point where it goes through in the second Doctor Strange, where he pretty much destroys the universe or tries to destroy the multiverse for her. They didn't build that. So that's a plot point that comes up a little bit later. But let's kind of move past this beginning point.
So, the Mike Wazowski evolved. All right, Mike Wazowski evolved.
See, it's so funny. Okay, so Weston said Mike Wazowski in the movie theater, and I leaned over and I was like, "Oh, it's a Beholder."
Yes, I thought Beholder too, and then I actually watched a review of this, and like, "Hey, it's Mike Wazowski." And I was like, "Yes,
Mike Wazowski."
So we America Chavez jumps through, is knocked through this portal.
And can I just say, naming the character America Chavez was so on the nose. Like, I don't know. There was something
That's from the comics.
about
That's been
it.
around for a while.
I know, but it's like, and they also put her in a Stars and Stripes denim jacket.
Which is her costume from the comics.
But then that's a comic book problem.
Yeah. Well,
like,
honestly, I, from what I've heard, I am not a huge Marvel fan, so I don't know about this personally, but I have heard that she's actually not. Her comic book series was not that popular.
Yeah,
It was not that big. Like,
well, and I thought at first that she was the new Ms. Marvel.
No, that's a different
character.
show. There's a different show.
But like, I legit thought that was who it was at first, and I was like, oh, okay, wait, that's not who that is. Shumagoroth.
Yes.
Yep, they couldn't use his actual name of Shumagoroth because due to copyright issue. Really? I didn't know that.
Well, actually, they completely screw it all up even a little bit more, because I've looked at some lore, and the creature that's in the dimension where they're originally fighting, those actually are a different thing that's linked to the Darkhold, and then Shumagoroth is a different thing that's not linked to it. So not even the same thing, but they make it be the same thing.
Oh, because I thought I understood that was the same creature.
And that's those nods to, hey, if you know a whole ton more, this is interesting. If you don't know a whole ton more, this isn't interesting at all.
Well, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Like, it doesn't matter.
But here's the thing. So they have this battle. I think it's a decent battle.
Yeah, it's okay.
It's a decent enough, fight this thing. They struggle a little bit. There's some getting knocked down. I liked it. Definitely Doctor Strange got knocked around a little bit. Good thing. You got to take some hits to make the fight interesting. Here's my issue with this fight.
Okay. They
finished this fight, and then they just turn around, and it's no big deal. This is a Thursday afternoon.
Yeah.
It downplays, and this is an issue Marvel has, and it has gotten worse.
It has.
They downplay their own achievements. This is the same as you have a big fight with your players and NPCs and give them no gold, no items, and nothing cool at the end of the fight.
No, it's just like, and we're done.
And we're done. Great battle. Move on.
Well, and I feel like one thing that they're trying to do is set up this idea that this is now a commonplace thing with all of the different superheroes that are like existing in the universe world that they've created. And so like these types of things are kind of a commonplace thing. But I don't know about you, but I work in insurance. So the first thing that I think of when I watch these movies that has tons of destruction is I'm like, the insurance claims and the crap, like you just destroyed. I mean, granted, it was because of a monster that you were stopping, but you just destroyed like an entire city block of New York, and you're just gonna like go get tea now? Like, really? And like, where are the policemen? Where, like, it's just, I'm sorry. I apparently am trying to apply true logic to a Marvel movie, and I just can't. Do you have superhero coverage? Seriously.
There was actually a show. There was a TV show. It was part of the whole Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. thing.
It was a spinoff, wasn't it?
Well, there was one to where they worked for an insurance agency that did superhero insurance. And it was funny. It didn't last very long.
I was about to say, obviously, it didn't last very long.
But I thought it was very funny.
Yeah.
I think Steven Seagal would have been almost as interesting as the way they ended this fight. I mean, it was cool when they pop its eye out and all that stuff.
That was the first real indicator that we had as audience members
Definitely
that
more gory.
Is going to be a more gory Marvel movie. This was supposed to be like Marvel's step into horror.
Yes.
And with Sam Raimi, I mean, he had done the Spider-Man movies, which were wonderful, except for 3.
Yeah.
And he had his hands tied. He had his hands tied with number 3.
Which, you bring that up.
Just him.
I can bring up, I think a lot of people say that this movie has the same, feels like there's a lot of the same issues. And there's one area in particular that we know they had problems. So the original director of this show left. There was one before Sam Raimi. Then Sam Raimi came and took over the project. Then he goes through one thing that most people won't ever know this, but America Chavez throughout the whole movie on her jacket is an LGBTQI alphabet. I don't know what's the exact right terms these days anymore. They change so quickly.
I think it's LGBTQAI+.
Okay, make sure I get all of them. But on her back is this flag and symbol for that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, China would block the movie for that. So they had to go through post-production and change it and edit stuff out all through the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And then funny thing, it ended up getting rejected anyway.
They do that for all the movies that are released in Saudi Arabia as well.
Mm-hmm. But they did that on the American versions as well. So like they did it completely. And then they ended up getting rejected anyway because in one scene for a couple seconds, there is a sign of a Chinese newspaper that is critical of the Chinese government. And so it was still got blocked from China. It's there for a couple of seconds, but they blocked it for that.
That's hilarious.
Oh, and the lesbian moms. That's true, too.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
And so they go through and change all this, which makes me question, okay, they're heavy post-production.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, you see the amount of CGI that's in this movie. Like,
but it feels like more editing. For me, this feels like a movie that was like you're a GM who has an amazing story, and then your players are messing around a lot, and you know it's only supposed to last so long, so then you start cutting stuff.
Yeah,
but then because you cut stuff, it doesn't flow.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it was this movie, right, that I said they're not letting anything breathe.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's a problem as well. Like pacing, and pacing is a thing in D&D and gaming all the time when you're trying to figure out pacing, especially with your travel. You're trying to figure out pacing with travel. Like that's always a difficult thing. Like no matter where you are in your life experience in the games. But pacing was a hard part. So we have this battle in New York. I do want to point out one thing that is a complete gaffe later on is that when America Chavez's character is up on a ledge above the monster, she starts stomping on the concrete ledge to make it fall on top of the monster. And we see her power, which is shown as electric blue, like lightning kind of stuff, goes over the pieces of concrete as if she's like using extra force to get it down. This matters in the future.
It does matter quite a bit.
So I just want to point that this happens in the first 15 minutes of the movie that we see, and Doctor Strange is not the Sorcerer Supreme.
He's not.
Like, wasn't that the end of the movie of Doctor Strange? Was that like he's supposed to become the Sorcerer Supreme, and that
changed in Endgame because he was gone for 5 years.
That's true.
And so Wong took over as Sorcerer Supreme.
But isn't he still supposed to be like the best of us? I mean, not quoted from
it is, but
Endgame.
It's more of a management thing, is the way they're doing it.
Okay. But yeah, I didn't like that. Anyway, we can move on now.
So then we have the introduction of Wanda.
They did a ton of reshoots. Oh, they did?
Yeah, I heard that as well. Like
that's never a good sign if they're doing a ton of reshoots. If they're just doing a couple weeks of reshoots, that's very normal for a movie to do. But if they're doing a ton,
So you have the introduction of Wanda. Now, this is one area where I there's a little bit of laziness I feel here.
Yeah.
Because of the fact that they had WandaVision, they felt like they didn't have to explain anything.
And they did absolutely no foundational building of who Wanda was at all. So it's not even that they didn't have to explain what was going on in WandaVision. It was 100% expected that you have seen everything up to this point. You know her abilities, you know her backstory, you know everything. So they did nothing.
Which I can see two things here. It's like, okay, we've already made these movies. We don't need to explain it. But you got to give something. You got to give hints. You got to give more reference than they did give.
I think they gave a single...
If you don't do Disney Plus, if you haven't watched their streaming, This whole movie feels like,
Makes no sense.
well, it feels like a situation where you failed every lore check. And
You're
honestly,
okay,
have
we're
no
just gonna keep
idea
going.
what's going on
So-
because everyone failed every lore check that they could, and so you have no
Exactly.
information.
Exactly. So I didn't watch WandaVision. Weston did.
Yes.
And so he's going in with the information. He told me what happened at the end of WandaVision just so that I would know. And I didn't watch it because I just didn't want to watch the content. Honestly, as a mother, I just didn't want to watch her go through the struggle of coming to terms with the fact that the man that she loved and the two children that she created in her brain were gone.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to, whatever. So there is that. But they did no foundational building at all for this character.
Well, and then to give a little more to that, so you have him show up, and he starts talking to her, and she's like, "Oh, it was that you come to get me because of what I did there," and he's like, "No, it's okay. You made it all right. She killed a bunch of people. She killed tons of people there. She didn't make it right."
Did she actually kill them all?
She not all of them, but a bunch of people died there. And
That's
he's just like, "Oh, don't worry about it. No biggie."
You're an Avenger, so like we're gonna totally forgive you for the fact that you killed people.
Like Strange,
On
they,
your
they
own
died in the
vendetta.
thing, but then they come back.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and it was like I had to do this. Hers was completely selfishly killing people, and he's just like, "Oh, it's okay. You made it right." No, she didn't. She just left.
Well, yeah, there was no reparations in any way, shape, or form from what the events of WandaVision.
No.
From what happened there.
So then she talks to her, and then she says something that gives away. Oh, that she mentions.
She mentions her name.
Her name, America Chavez. And they had mentioned earlier that the monster, because of some glowing things, looked like it was being controlled.
Mm-hmm.
And she says America Chavez's name, and it's like, I didn't say her name. You already knew.
Yeah, and she says, you didn't tell me her name, did you?
Yeah. Which was fine. I was like, okay, cool.
But it also felt really fast.
It was
It
very
was
fast.
so fast. There was no foundational building of who that character was, and then there was no foundational building of the relationship between Wanda and Doctor Strange to begin with. I mean, they're basically strangers. And like people forget
They haven't
this.
hung out.
They have not spent any time together.
He didn't hang out with the Avengers.
No, and they had no reason to connect at any point outside of Iron Man's funeral.
Yeah.
That's it. So it's very frustrating for me to be sitting here and being like, these two, they're acting like these two are chummy. They're not chummy. They don't know each other.
What you don't realize is that the moment he showed up there, Wanda cast friends on him.
Oh my gosh.
and that's how
that would actually make more sense.
Well, and here's the other issue that I think if this is where that foundational work of explaining what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
Wanda lost her kids in a way. Like, her kids weren't really real, but she had lived in her mind. She had lived with them. And then there's this idea that dreams are using into the multiverse.
You're seeing like memories of or moments of yourself in the multiverse in other places.
Which goes against what happened in Loki, the TV show, because in Loki there was only one timeline until they broke stuff, and then suddenly there were multiples. But people were having dreams before Loki, the TV show. So their logic makes no sense whatsoever.
The sacred timeline thing.
Yeah, it's like, we're gonna retcon, we're gonna like not pay attention to the stuff we did earlier.
Well, you basically have to ignore everything that happened in Loki,
Which,
for what happens in this movie.
what can we learn from this? GMs, keep notes. Keep notes of what is the rules, what's the lore, what's the way you've set these things up, because you need to keep consistency. Marvel has gotten, I think, too big. You can't keep it all straight. They're gonna need like 3 departments just to keep straight all the stuff that they've laid out, and it's starting to fall apart. Is what I'm seeing. And which is a definite issue in storytelling. Like, I know Brandon Sanderson, he's got crazy lore.
Well, and he has his graduate students at BYU They're part of their interning with him is keeping track of his lore.
Even Critical Role has their
lore person.
Their lore person, because it's difficult to keep track of all the lore. Marvel, it's gotten a little too big on the lore, and they're not being able to keep it all
You
straight.
can't keep it straight.
But one of the pieces of lore that I want to bring up in this foundation is the Darkhold.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think, Hayley, anywhere in this did they really explain that the Darkhold drives you insane.
No. I was very confused once they got into that stuff. I finally figured out that, like, ooh, Darkhold, evil, bad. It will turn you evil, bad. But there was no explanation.
That's because
in
the whole explanation was in the last 3 episodes of WandaVision.
Okay.
But it wouldn't have taken long to say she's not in it. She's not. And honestly, the bad guy of this movie should not have been Wanda.
No.
The bad guy of this movie should have been the Darkhold.
Yes. They should have made it a character.
They should have, because the Darkhold, the corruption of the Darkhold is what was causing a lot of Wanda's her mental breaks. Mm-hmm. The Darkhold drives you nuts. It's always been a thing that the Darkhold drives you nuts. So if they would have added that in a little bit more of, yes, she lost her children, she has a psychotic break anyway, the Darkhold twists you and twists your mind
mm-hmm.
in evil ways, would have then bridged the gap between her reaction and an expected normal reaction.
Yeah, because if you didn't watch WandaVision, you're thinking of the Wanda at the end of Endgame.
Yes.
That's the last time we've seen her. That does not connect in any way, shape, or form into the Wanda in Doctor Strange. They are like 2 completely separate characters.
So you're like a player who has this big thing come up. You've missed the last 5 sessions.
Mm-hmm.
And you're trying to drop back in. Problem is,
Well,
that's a lot of people who went to see the movie.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people, the viewer base for the Marvel movies in theaters is not necessarily it's a larger base than the ones that go see ones that do the streaming.
Yeah, it's a very different level of, I don't want to say fanaticism, but
Yeah.
it's just a different level of enjoyment.
Yes.
So it's very. Yeah. So I was confused. I felt like she was.
Because this is the scene. This is the scene from this last scene of WandaVision.
Mm-hmm.
Is her in her cabin doing this, like floating in the air, turning the Darkhold's pages with her magic,
mm-hmm.
like red-eyed and consumed.
Yeah.
But
if that's also. But okay, never mind. The point that I was going to make actually doesn't make sense. So never mind.
All right, so that's, again, you got to do it all. Now,
Yeah.
Then she suddenly is like, well, I'm coming for her. And then we have suddenly this Comitage battle scene that, like, there was no time, no build-up. Learn from Helm's Deep, guys. Come on.
There was no breathing room.
None.
They never let anything sit. And this goes back to pacing. So Doctor Strange tells her exactly where they are.
Yeah.
Like, hey, by the way, we in Tibet. Like, she's here. And, oh, we're not going to take her and move her somewhere else. We're just going to stay there and hope that everything's okay. Like, that's literally their strategy.
Well, and here's the thing. Like, looking at this, the let's transition into the battle happened faster than an anime training montage. Okay? Like, it was like, boom.
That's true.
Battle. Okay.
It was, well, and they're setting her up as this big bad, and that she's the most powerful. Doctor Strange is even scared of her abilities, and that, you know, the only way they're going to get through this is by working together. Never once does anyone say, hey, America, you have the ability to jump dimensions, right? Maybe we should, like, help you figure out how to do that, and then we can go there.
Yeah, never.
Like, there is never a point at which there is the suggestion of, let's train you, let's teach you how to do it. I legit thought that was exactly where it was going to go.
Well, it would have made sense. The regular, like, trainer, like, teacher
they
figure.
took her to Comatage. Like, that's where the training happens.
Well, and it would have created a better relationship, because then there would have been this training thing that happens, this Mr. Miyagi, Karate Kid type thing going on.
And you build up their relationship.
But they didn't build up their relationship at all. In any way, shape, or form, which again is part of that issue. Now, they do not do anything to make you as an audience member be emotionally invested in what's happening in the events. And to make the parallel with GMing, you have to make your players care about what's happening. If they do not care, you're going to have a very bored group of players. Either that, or you just need to throw tons of combat, which is what they did.
Which is exactly what they did.
Now, I want to bring up, this scene is a perfect example of what's wrong with this, what's wrong with this movie, and with her as a antagonist. The way they build up Wanda with this super powered, like, everyone's scared of me, I can do anything. This is the reason why no one does level 20 campaigns. There's nowhere to go.
Nope.
This is Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. If it was a D&D or a TTRPG campaign, it would be a TTRPG campaign that starts at max level with all the gear, and you've got nowhere to go. There's no next level. I mean, they've Dragon Ball Z'd it to where, we're so powerful. What do we do? If they blast each other, it destroys the world. We take them into space and they can destroy worlds up there. Like, they've Dragon Ball Z'd this to where they have made them so powerful, there is nowhere to go.
Yeah, exactly. And it's very frustrating too when you have a character who is so overpowered that, like, as well as not a character, but an antagonist that is so overpowered that then how are the protagonists supposed to fight them? How are they supposed to do anything if they know we're gonna die because this person is so big? Then the actual conflict is not between the protagonist and the antagonist. It's between the antagonist and the antagonist, because then the antagonist has to make the choice. Yeah. I'm not going to fight you anymore.
Which is what had to happen.
Which is exactly, but it had to happen. And so we've got a movie that's titled Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, and Doctor Strange is not the main character.
This is Wanda denying therapy.
Essentially, and it's so frustrating. It's like the whole thing just drives me crazy.
There's no arc. There's no arc that can be had.
There's no villain arc, and there's no, like, heroes arc either, because they're trying to do the heroes arc with America. I keep wanting to say America Ferrera, but that's an actress in Ugly Betty. But America Chavez, they tried to do the heroes arc with her, where she, like, learns about herself and whatever.
But she doesn't.
That's the point. She never actually has those growth moments. And it's because they never did anything to anchor emotionally this character. I'm sorry. I'm very passionate about this.
Can't tell.
I'm passionate about storytelling. Yep. We should start a show where it's just us breaking down movies and storytelling. That would be super fun.
There's no growth, and this is where, again, when you're writing your campaigns and stuff like that, giving time for growth is important. Why did Critical Role Season 1, why was it so great? Because each character had a really good arc.
A beautiful character arcs.
2 had some character arcs.
But they
not
didn't
everyone they didn't go as long. And so not everyone had the time for all the arcs. They didn't get worked in quite the same way.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, is like, if you're wanting a story-driven campaign, you have to give each character their arc. And in this, they tried to give every character their arc, but it was only 2 hours and 6 minutes, which is short.
The shortest Marvel movie.
See, and this is
so far.
This is again where I think that Sam Raimi had a 2.5 hour, which would be a normal,
normal length,
2.5 hour movie that got cut down to 2 hours and 6 minutes. And I bet a lot of those connecting scenes that gave room to breathe,
they were left on the editing room floor. Yeah, I have a feeling this movie was broken by the editing process, which was unfortunate.
Which brings me to my next thing. So they, in order to flee Wanda,
my gosh!
In order, which by the way, he locks her in the mirror dimension. She just walks straight through it. Like, Wanda is the bad guy that you gave infinite legendary actions to just decide to succeed.
Yeah, it's like she's just like, hey, what's up? Yeah, I know I'm in the mirror dimension, and I know that we set up in the last movie of Doctor Strange that, like, you can't get out of the mirror dimension once you're put in the mirror dimension, but, like, apparently that doesn't count for witchcraft.
No. Well, and it's funny because in the what if version, Doctor Strange is able to lock a Ultron and Killmonger who are fighting with the Infinity Stones into a pocket dimension. But he can't lock Wanda.
Oh, yeah.
In a pocket dimension. But that was the entire power of the Infinity Stones. Interesting.
So essentially they've made it so that Wanda is more powerful than everything.
Yes, everything.
And we see that displayed in this next scene.
Which we are introduced to the Illuminati.
Which could have been so cool.
The Illuminati consists... It's on another... We go to another world, and on this world, they don't have the Avengers, they have the Illuminati, and the Illuminati consists of... Peggy Carter became Captain America, or Captain Britain.
Captain Britain.
She got the power. She got the super serum in this world. We've got Captain Marvel is... her last name is Rambeau.
It's the friend.
Yeah, her last name is Rambeau. I'm forgetting her first name. It's the friend became instead of her. We've got Mr. Fantastic. We've got Black Bolt. And we've got...
Black Panther.
Charles Xavier.
Black Panther's in it too, isn't it?
No.
Oh,
Black Bolt. And
Charles Xavier.
Okay, awesome group. Right. They say, we can handle her. No problem. They've battled with these multidimensional things and stuff like that. They should have some knowledge. Yeah, we got her. No problem.
Well, and so...
She goes and, I can now walk dimensions. So I'm going to walk dimensions into my body in this world and then go fight you all.
Yeah, they give a brief explanation that she can essentially dream walk.
That's what they called it.
And possess herself in another dimension or another universe and take control of that body and apparently still have the same abilities that her other body did.
I mean, they'd have the similar abilities. I mean, it's...
But would they? Because the reason they have those abilities was because of the stuff that they did close to the stone.
Well, I imagine she still had those. That still happened in this world.
Yeah, but she was only psychic. Correct me if I'm wrong. She was psychic.
No.
The twins were psychic. And that's why they picked them to do all the experiments on and stuff with the stone.
And then they got powers.
Yeah, and then they got powers. So in another universe, if they are exactly the same, then she would have been psychic. She would not have had all these crazy abilities.
Well, she would have if they did the experiments on her in that world as well.
But
which is the whole premise that they did.
What? No.
And here's where the problem with the multiverse is.
No.
She has 2 kids in this world.
Which also makes no sense.
Actual birth children, but there's no husband at all. There's no father figure.
Well,
there's no vision. There's no nothing. Were these just born of her mind as well?
These children can't exist in another universe because they weren't real in this universe.
Well, but in another universe they were. They were born to her in another universe, apparently. But they were immaculately conceived.
Because, the love of her life, the man that she was ready to, rip Thanos to shreds over, it doesn't matter now. at all.
Because they couldn't get him for the
Because they couldn't bring Paul Bettany in for the movie. But, like, you know what I mean? Like, they made it so it was all about the children. And I understand as a mother that agony of the idea of not having your children with you. Disclaimer, I love my children. I would die for my children. I would stop bullets with my body for my children. That man across the table from me, way more priority. If I was to create a different universe in my head, it will be on a desert island with this man.
Yeah.
It would not be.
Most relationships I don't think are like that.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, but this is fantasy. And, like,
Well, and here's the other thing. She created the children in her mind.
Hi, Joel.
Hi.
Hey, love.
She created the children in her mind in WandaVision.
Mm-hmm.
And change reality. Now with the Darkhold, she has the ability to actually change reality. Why can't she just make them again?
Exactly.
Why can't she just make them again? I can change reality in every other way.
Yeah.
I can I can remove Black Bolt's mouth and turn Mr. Fantastic
into ribbons.
Into ribbons,
Mm-hmm.
but I can't create my children again?
Yeah. So Doctor Strange is brought before the Illuminati, and it turns out that the Doctor Strange of this universe was actually like a kind of a bad guy, and they also fought Thanos.
He used the Darkhold to gain power.
Yeah, so he used the Darkhold to gain power.
Which is where, again, they're trying to introduce this idea that the Darkhold drives you nuts, but they didn't do it in the beginning. They do it much later.
Yes, they do it much later. But it turns out that he was going to have too much power, and it was the whole thing, and he decided to sacrifice himself because he realized he was not going to be a good person, and so they kill him.
Yeah, there's a spoiler warning for a reason, Joel.
Sorry. I'm sorry, Joel. There's a spoiler warning.
Spoiler warning's on the screen.
It's right there. I'm sorry if you heard something that you didn't want to hear. I apologize. But, so there's this, they bring him forward, and they're basically putting him on trial for the choices and decisions that a different Doctor Strange made.
Well, the idea is that he's jumping worlds, which is bad, and it's Doctor Strange, and we don't trust Doctor Strange. So we've got to do something about this Doctor Strange.
But they're still putting him on trial for the choices and decisions that were made by a different person.
Which they bring back the whole thing of you don't make good decisions. Doctor Stranges don't make good decisions, and so you are a liability.
Yeah, so they essentially...
We're going to ignore the fact that Wanda is going to come in here and tear everything to pieces because you. Now, here also is where they disrespect some top tier characters.
Yes.
You don't beat Professor Xavier in a Duel of the Minds.
No.
And who's the one?
And
who's
that's
the
been
last one?
So well established that you cannot beat Professor Xavier. Like, period. Ever.
If it's in a psychic game,
no.
Like, he goes toe to toe with Phoenix. He goes, you know.
He is, it's very well established in the X-Men lore, which I actually know better than the Marvel lore at this point.
Which is, X-Men is Marvel.
I know, but like, it's all been separate up to this point. You don't beat Professor Xavier.
But on top of that, I mean, you've got, who's the one that survives to the end? Who's the last one?
It's Peggy Carter.
Peggy Carter. The least powered character in that group is the one that survives to the end. And then, I'm sorry, she doesn't get to have Steve Rogers' line, if I can do this all day.
I hated that.
I'm sorry.
So they give her Steve Rogers' line, I can do this all day. And it was so wrong coming out of her mouth.
Say something different.
That I'm like,
be your
are
own
you
character.
Kidding me right now?
Be
and that she has vibranium, which literally vibrates back onto the individual the power and force of the attack. And she still had no ability to hurt or to really like.
The problem is she threw her shield and then it got thrown back at her and cut her in half.
I know, and cut her in half, which is like
really bloody.
Really, but they didn't show that one because that would have made this movie rated R.
So here's where I brought to my
politics.
My
probably.
Other huge issue with this movie. Why did they go to this alternate reality? what did they want to get once? Oh wait, actually, there's two things I need to bring up. One, they get to this alternate reality, right?
Mm-hmm.
While they're
Then
walking
they do
around,
an exposition dump.
while they're walking around, they have them stand on this thing that apparently pulls out memories, and just happens to only pull out the 2 memories that forward the plot later on.
Mm-hmm. It's an exposition dump, and it's not a very well done exposition dump.
It was clumsy exposition dump. Exposition dumps they don't need to be dumps. They need to be things that you piece out over the course of the time.
It needs to be a couple of NPCs that make sense for these people to know these certain things
That
and
make
to give
comments.
them, to give them the information, and the characters have to ask the questions. You can't just dump all of the info on the characters. They will not remember anything, and it's very boring.
So then you get the situation where they stand on this, look at these memories, which of course happen in third person.
That was the other thing, and that is an issue that I have with memories across the board for movies. Books, you can do it easily because you put yourself in first person and you can do a memory that way from first person. It's not a problem. Memories, you do not dream in third person. If you dream in third person, please tell me in the chat that you dream in third person, because you might be the only human being on the planet that dreams in third person.
It was kind of funny. There's a YouTuber I saw the other day that they did a setup where they had like some VR goggles on them, and then they had a thing that went behind them and had a camera that then was projecting, then they could watch through the goggles, and so they could watch themselves in third person mode. They could see themselves
in third person?
So they're walking around in third person mode trying to handle that. Oh my
gosh.
I know, I was like, that's so
crazy.
Trippy.
That is crazy. But nobody dreams in third person or has memories in third person. So every single memory that you see in a movie is done incorrectly. Every single one. But it was very frustrating because the exposition also, this memory suddenly had all of these details that it's like, I'm sorry, she was focused on the flower with the bee. She would not see what's happening behind her.
Well, on top of that, oh, this is the memory that just happens to come up. How come it didn't come up a memory where she's like, sitting on the toilet and just like, I ate something bad last night or something like that.
God.
It could have been anything, and it's on a screen for everyone to watch.
Well, and Doctor Strange has a memory too. That's like a moment with him and Christine. Right? Isn't it Christine?
I don't
or
remember.
Christina? Is it Christina?
I'm just glad it wasn't like some inappropriate personal moment that gets
I know
shoved
that
for
you're
everyone
like,
in the shopping center.
You're like, oh shoot, I gotta get off this little star thing. Ha!
Not that memory. Whoopsie.
But like that memory was an info dump because it was when he got his watch, when she gave him his watch, when he graduated, or finished his residency,
which is
or something
important
else.
Just a little later.
Which is important, and literally is the most cheesy way that it's important.
Yes.
But anyway, so this was a fun exposition dump.
So, but
I have a hard time with exposition dumps.
Because they need to be done well. As an author, that gets drilled into you.
Yeah, I am a writer as well.
Here's my other issue. What were they going for in the very first scene of the movie? They're going for this book, right? This magical book that's supposedly going to be able to help things. They are going. It is a magic item quest.
Oh yeah, that's why they were there. Yeah.
Yeah. You see how forgettable it is?
Yep. I totally forgot about that.
This is a magic item quest. This is, we need to get the magical item to stop the big bad.
And then they destroy it.
And then they destroy the magic item.
Oh my gosh.
And no one gets to use it. And it's like,
it gets destroyed. It's like, really?
It's completely useless and worthless.
The whole point of the story.
In this movie, I loved what one person said. Like, there's a thing in movies and in books of subverting expectations. It is taking, you think this is what's going to happen, but I'm going to change it. They did that too much in this movie. Too much of what you expected, they suddenly are like, you think. It's the age-old thing of the NPC that you thought is actually the bad guy. That's what Wanda is. Yeah. Wanda's that NPC that's been with the party that suddenly you didn't know she's actually the big bad.
Someone lied to you.
Yeah, it's it's the same thing that everyone says don't do in your D&D game. And then this, like, magical book. It's going to give us the answer that we need. It would have been cooler if it had been like, looked into it, and then the answer was America Chavez. And then they've got to figure out how she's the answer. That would have been cooler. But instead, she just destroys it, and it's like, you think you can have an answer? No, not that.
I'm gonna take it.
That.
And
Talk
this
about
is also
railroading.
Oh my gosh, so total railroading happening here. There's also, this is where we begin to see the horror aspect of this movie as well, which is a very different tone than the rest of the movie. So Wanda shows up. She is Scarlet Witch. She's literally destroying all of the everything. She's not covered in blood, but she's ripped apart a whole bunch of robots. So she's covered in like hydraulic fluid, which is red. So it kind of looks like blood.
Limping.
Yeah, and she's limping. She gets injured a little bit.
There's a whole Walking Dead.
But that's the point. Like, so she
zombie
kills all of the Illuminati people, and we see this hinted at in the Vision, or not Vision, but when Xavier goes into her mind, there is definitely this horror type feeling.
And it was kind of cool.
It was really good. That was one of the more engaging parts of the movie, was this stuff that started to go horror. Yep. It was very interesting, and I really liked it. And I wish that they had actually gone farther with that, because this was supposed to be Marvel's horror movie.
But then they wouldn't commit.
They wouldn't commit, and they were not sincere. And that's the reason why, in my opinion, Wonder Woman, the first Wonder Woman movie, was so bloody good.
Well, and Captain America.
And Captain America and Iron Man they were sincere. They were so sincere about what they were creating. And in this case, it's now become, we're creating a Marvel movie. And it's become rote.
Yeah.
So that was very hard. But you start seeing that. And then with Wanda chasing the party, chasing the characters down a hallway, it's 100% a zombie horror chase. And it's wonderful. And there's a jump scare, and it's really quite good.
Really
like,
well done,
they did a really good job with it. But it was so different of a tone that it pulled me out of the movie a little bit.
Because the tone, there wasn't a consistency in tone.
No.
But here's also where another thing happens, and I couldn't find images for this, but back on our Earth, on regular Prime Earth or whatever, Wong and the people there at Kamar-Taj, because she's still there, her body's still there.
Yeah.
They managed to destroy the Darkhold, and so she gets pulled back to her body.
Yeah.
Oh, but don't worry. There's a temple, and the spells of the Darkhold are inscribed on the walls.
They keep retconning literally everything they do in this movie.
And that's the problem. The story doesn't actually move forward with events. It's just...
They just keep doing the same things.
We're just going to give you a filler episode, a filler thing to get you back to, okay, honestly...
This is 100% railroading.
It kind of feels like, well, a movie is railroading, but like, it's bad.
No, this is super obvious and stupid.
It's almost like, you guys got there before the level that I expected you to, so I'm going to stop that and then make you go on a side quest to get back to the same storyline point that we were on before, because you're not a high enough level yet.
Yeah. Dooms, I just want to let you know, even though the spoiler warning is on there, apparently it's not obvious, but we're talking about Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, and we are 100% spoiling it, and we're going through it. So if you have not seen it yet and wish to see it, hop off.
Wow.
Because we apparently ruined some things for Joel.
Yeah. Or if you
Crisis.
don't care, because, I mean,
it's not the greatest of movies.
I mean,
Anyway,
if we can lower your expectations, maybe you'll enjoy it.
maybe you'll go in and enjoy it. Anyway, I just wanted to let you know, just warning.
Which I want to bring up. The temple there has monsters and demons, and they don't explain it at all. And this would be really kind of cool, because these guys were awesome looking.
Cool. This is one of those situations of a random encounter.
Yeah.
This is literally a random encounter in a movie, because it has no connection to anything.
But then there's a statue of like Wanda
of
there.
her.
It's
and it's like, they were waiting for me. Like, it's so Deus Ex Machina that it's like, oh my gosh. Could we just not for 5 seconds? It was really, really frustrating sitting in the audience and watching this movie, you guys.
It's like we're gonna. Oh no, we're gonna. What are we gonna do? Oh look, there's the thing made perfectly for me because I've been the chosen one the whole time.
I was the chosen of the Doom thingy. What is it called? The Darkhold.
And it's just like, really?
It was
Which
just
they
so
do.
stupid.
They do hint at that a little bit, like this prophetic idea in WandaVision. At the end, I should have you watch like the last like two episodes. Her fight with the other witch in WandaVision, where it goes through the Darkhold and stuff like that, and see maybe there if it fills in some gaps. But it was a while ago I watched WandaVision. I don't remember half of it.
Well, and if you don't bring in, if you're not weaving together stories from like that you really want to have, if you are the type of writer and GM or DM that enjoys creating complex stories and touching on things and hinting and foreshadowing, you have to do it consistent enough that your players are going to remember it.
Yeah.
So like you can't hint.
You got to bring it up again.
Yeah, well, it's like, so with Alea, and I don't know if you ever got this, in our campaign, every time we saw Alea, she was gold. Her hair's gold. The trees around her house were gold. The top of her house was gold. The filaments and all of the filigree on her home, both homes that you saw, were gold.
See, and that's kind of cool to go back and see. But like, you always knew something was up with her.
Yeah.
You always knew there was something there. And so then when you gave me that she was a dragon, it was a payoff, not a
something was
left field.
Not a like, what? Are you, what?
They will remember when I TPK them all.
Yes, I will. And Chaotic Platypus, I'm going to tell you too, because the spoiler warning apparently is not enough. But we are going through Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness scene by scene, and there is spoilers, all the spoilers, all of them.
Because
just so you know,
there are some lessons in writing that can be learned from
the core story.
So I want to go to the next. So like, in order to escape her, they jump into another dimension. America Chavez. You know, of course,
they're doing it for the book.
She's always able to do it when they need her to at the last minute type thing.
Because she can't control it, but
do you know
it
she's
shows
never tried? She never through the whole thing tried.
She never once tried to control it. That's why
I can't do it.
I know she's just a whiny teenager.
She's just a whiny teenager. Well, if this is supposed to be her story arc, there needed to be some more arc.
There was no story arc with her. She was the most throwaway, obnoxious character in the show.
Yeah. So they jump to another world, and she opens up the Wanda uses her power to open up the door and sends Doctor Strange and his lady through it. They go to this other world where it's being destroyed, being brought together, and the Doctor Strange that is there, oh look, he used the Darkhold and it corrupted him.
Why does the Darkhold give him a third eye?
Yeah, and if the Darkhold gives you a third eye, why doesn't Wanda have a third eye?
That's a really good question.
Like, is this a situation, roll 1d8 and there's a random table of what effects the Darkhold has on you?
Because that's really weird. The eye is weird.
That'd be more interesting if you explained that. You know, how the effects are, we don't know. But why does he have a third eye and Wanda doesn't?
Yeah.
Apparently her third eye is closed. It's a chakra thing. But like this was one thing that I was like, you have the same magic and you're having different effects on different characters, so nothing has any rules. And this is the problem with this movie is nothing has any rules.
There's no consistency. The eye is probably more of a throwback to the Eye of Agamotto.
Agamotto, which was, I mean, that was the
that
the
was
Eye
the
of
stone,
Agamotto was
though.
it was the
that
time
was the
stone.
time stone.
Like, I was just like, okay. There's no rules. It's like when our boys play make believe.
Well, and if they had started off with saying that the Darkhold is chaos incarnate, then that would actually make sense. Then it was like everything and anything that happened to like within the realm of the Darkhold or whatever, like with that in mind, like, okay, fine. Like chaos it's game. So we're going to do chaos.
And I love how they didn't bring, again, this is one of those areas where it's like the could haves. The Darkhold is actually written by an entity of chaos that exists, that's a demon in the universe, that they could have made the bad guy, made the Darkhold the bad guy, and then at the end she realizes that she's done all of this and has to help him stop it. Like, okay, that would have been cool, instead of what they do.
What they do here. So they get, so Strange goes and he's with, Christina's with him, and they go to this place where they meet the other Strange who has been corrupted by the Darkhold.
And what's his first answer?
His first answer is, I'm going to take your power.
I'm going to use the Darkhold.
I'm going to, you said that. Oh no, there's just like, there's a whole, we have to talk about though. We have to talk about the music battle.
Some people liked it.
Okay. I love music, but that was so cheesy. That was the stupidest thing ever. And what happened to his sling ring?
America Chavez took it earlier, but then she gave it back to him.
So what happened to it?
I don't know.
And what happened to that as a possibility of just like pushing people through and like putting them in on top of Mount Everest or deep in the ocean?
They depowered him.
Oh, it was so annoying.
This is why. This is a level 20 starting campaign. There's nowhere to grow to. So the only thing you can do is limit the power and try and knock them back down and say, oh, they have resistance to that. Oh, that doesn't work on them. Legendary action, they automatically succeed.
Well, and
because you're a level 20 character already. There's no growth that can be had.
And all the cool spells and stuff that he had been learning and whatnot. This would have been the most perfect opportunity to introduce his education of what he's learned in the space of time since the events of Endgame or of Doctor Strange, the first movie. This would have been perfect. But instead, they do this weird thing with the Darkhold. And yes, his first instinct is to, after defeating the evil Doctor Strange, is to say, hey, I know that the evil Doctor Strange that we just fought,
and the evil Doctor Strange in your universe,
was like all contaminated by the Darkhold, but like I feel like that's the only option that we have at this time. So he learns how to dreamwalk.
And he goes and possesses his dead body, which is where we get, zombie.
We have zombie freaking Strange.
Which I thought was interesting. Here's the part that I hated. And this occurs twice.
Okay.
So I'm going to mention it first, and then I'll mention it when it comes up again.
Okay.
So he possesses this dead body.
Uh-huh.
And then he mentions, he's like, protect my body. From what? Oh, the souls of the damned. No information here, but apparently if you try and dreamwalk into a dead body, like the souls of hell try and tear at you.
And the demons of hell.
And when did he learn about dreamwalking?
Well, and okay, so the Darkhold taught him the dreamwalking. That's why he needed the Darkhold. That was his whole thing, was that he needed it to learn how to dreamwalk.
When did he learn that? Like, what would be the effects if you did?
I know.
Did he
it's
go
like
and read the section. Oh, if you're possessing a dead body, go read paragraph 3. Oh, okay. Well, I'm a thorough researcher, so I'm gonna. Did he pull out his highlighters?
He read the stat block and then the spell features and effects. Like it is very random because he says that and then. Like, we see what that means, but like, what the hell?
Sensei Suplex, rated with a huge
party of 22.
Now, I do want to, everyone.
We're gonna need to take a pause. We're gonna need to take a pause here for a second and just chat so that you guys can all get in here and we can explain what we're talking about tonight.
And we can give you a little bit of a warning, of course, because we are talking about storytelling, how to tell good stories.
Oh, did we just get a... Oh, thank you so much for the follow. My goodness. La 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 la. Funky the Foolish Warlock. Oh, that's cute. Funky the Foolish Warlock. All the F's are PHs.
But we are talking about storytelling, how to do good storytelling, and using as a cautionary tale Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, and thus we will be spoiling.
Oh, Blue Collar DM, thank you so much for the follow.
I love that name.
Thank you. Yes, and if you want to get a little avatar, go ahead and hit that follow button, and you'll get a cute little dragon that you can do stuff with.
Little dragons.
Dragon. Don't do that tongue thing. So we are talking about Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, and there are spoiler warnings. If you have not seen the movie yet, please bookmark this, follow us, and come back and watch this movie or this review kind of thing after you've seen it.
Or just know, and maybe we can save you $20.
Thank you for the follow.
The follow.
Follow.
Because we're just breaking down. There's lots of story issues in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, and we can learn from these in how we DM and the stories that we craft for our party members. And so we're kind of going through some of the things that we're like,
this movie was full of so many plot holes and so many storylines that just did not work.
Well, and here's the big things. I think that a couple of things to bring up. One, it's fun to subvert expectations, to be like, you thought it was this way, but it's actually this way. That's fun to do.
You can only do that a handful of times.
Do it don't do that to your party constantly. Like, it's just going to annoy them. Like, they're going on a quest. Leave the quest. Don't try and be like, you thought this quest, but guess what? That's actually this. Oh, okay. Subvert expectations and doing things in unique ways.
Yeah.
Not by completely taking everything they're trying to do and throwing it out the
or retconning literally everything
things.
2 minutes after you've done it. This movie does this multiple times where the main characters are going for something, and then when it is within reach or after it has been accomplished, they undo it.
Yes.
So then it's like, well, we have to go do it again. And it's very frustrating. So we're at what I personally feel is the best visual sequence.
Visually gorgeous.
In the movie.
Now, I'm going to throw out here an issue with this part.
Remember, spoiler warnings. I just don't want to spoil this movie for anybody.
So he's there. The spirits of the damned are going all over him.
It looks so cool, though.
And what saves him?
Christine.
Yelling, "You have magic!
Yeah.
Use it!" Like he forgot. The Sorcerer Supreme forgot he has magic.
Well, and I think it was more, I feel like she was doing that more as an idea of like, use what you have. Like, because then the next sequence is him using the spirits of the damned as like his cloak that he has lost. Because he's not in his body. And he's in a zombie body.
I get that, but like, you didn't think to use magic? Like, it's the fact that I yelled out to you suddenly made you able to do something.
Yeah.
And you'll see why I bring that up.
I know. Well, and that's the whole hero arc thing. Funky the Foolish Warlock says the movie was fantastic to watch and the falling through the dimensions was sick AF. Yes. That visually, this movie was so beautiful.
That was so interesting.
It was so beautiful. And I actually do want to watch it again just for the visuals because they were so well done. You can tell they spent a pretty freaking penny on the visuals. I loved the horror
tones when they were used. I wish they'd been used a heck of a lot more.
Yeah, I do too.
But the issues a lot have to do with character elements, the art. One of the things that I said earlier is one of the problems with this movie is that it's the same as starting a level 20 campaign. All the characters are so OP, there's nowhere to go.
Where do they go from here?
And the only character who could have had somewhere to go, America Chavez, didn't really get much growth at all.
They did nothing.
They did nothing with
her character. She didn't have any type of emotional growth. She had no internal conflict that she needed to push through, that we were introduced to like actually give her that moment. We were introduced to an emotional aspect where her power to do the dimension thing accidentally like sucked her mom's through the portal.
I can get that. Totally get that.
But they should have included. This is why in writing prologues are very important, Because if you're writing a fantasy, and this is considered a fantasy,
Yeah,
if you are
totally
writing
is.
a fantasy, that is what the point of the prologue is to create an instant emotional attachment for the viewer or reader of the book in the first few pages. Then you can jump to the beginning of the story, but it creates that emotional connection. You think of Wheel of Time. It's the dragon that has just killed his family.
Yes.
You connect to the dragon in that moment. You think of almost all of the things that Brandon Sanderson writes has a prologue that makes you interested emotionally in what's going on.
Well, why were you interested in Captain Rogers as Captain America later? Because you saw him struggling. You saw
that inner conflict of like, I want to be a soldier, but my body is preventing me from being a soldier. I have the heart and I have the mind of being a hero and of self-sacrifice and love.
Iron Man would have been a lot less interesting if we hadn't had the cave scenes.
Yeah. If he hadn't grown through that. And that's a problem that they have with America Chavez, is she does not grow in any way in this movie.
It technically was like they were almost trying to make an America Chavez movie, but they didn't want to make an America Chavez movie. So they didn't think people would come see America Chavez movie. So they put it in a Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, but then they couldn't make it a America Chavez movie and call it different. So no one gets a good arc.
No.
Because we're trying to give everyone an arc.
Yeah.
In 2 hours and 6 minutes.
Exactly. So Doctor Strange harnesses the souls of the damned in this other, in our world.
Yeah.
To go after Wanda. So that sequence visually was so freaking cool with the hands and the wrapping around his body and stuff, like so good.
Okay, we gotta comment.
I know. Thank you, Funky, for having opinions on this. I appreciate it. Okay, so you say, I think the biggest issue is thematically for Steven and Wanda, is that they're both aware of what the movie is trying to impress upon them, but because they're both functioning adults, it's not really a hard concept that they had to wrap their minds around. They just had to get out of their own ways.
Agreed.
I agree with that a lot, actually.
Which makes it not a very interesting.
That means that the story arc isn't interesting because we, as the viewers, as the audience, we don't believe anything that's happening. We don't really believe that Wanda would go completely insane and destroy the universes just to have her children that aren't even real.
Again, I bring up, like, okay, you can warp reality completely, so just...
Why did you not create the children?
Well, like, okay, it was bad to do that in that town, but you're in the middle of 50 acres of wilderness. Go ahead and do it here. Do it here. Go right ahead.
It was bad to do that in that town because from what I understand, and I have not watched WandaVision, from what I understand, it's because she basically kidnapped this entire town. So, like, why can't she just create the children now that she has the ability to change reality? Create the children and then live
on her farm.
Just live her life with the two children, because apparently Vision is not a thing anymore either. Well, like, who cares about Vision?
Because in the alternate realities, she's got both children. There's no Vision,
no dad.
There's no dad.
And like, she could have, with this same ability, she could have rebuilt Vision. She could have rebuilt the children.
She could rebuild all of it.
You know, I just am going to recreate all of the things that I love, and it's going to be wonderful. Like, there's so many logical holes in this. Ugh. So he goes and attacks Wanda. They have a big fight. Wanda gets America and is like, I'm gonna take your power from you. And there's a struggle, and then America gives Wanda exactly what she wants. She opens. Wait. Oh,
don't jump like that. Wow, you're like jumping like crazy.
You're right.
Doctor Strange and Wanda are fighting, and here's the moment. Like, America has never done anything. She's punched things. Like, she's punched and kicked things and had the power react. And yet she never, like, noticed, like, oh, yeah, I could use this power to, like, do things.
Yeah, earlier.
And then suddenly Strange comes up and does the whole, you had the power all along.
It was in you all along. Really? It was the stupidest moment.
That is the extent of your character art.
And coming from a zombie.
No growth. Well, in a way, it's coming from the Strange that she knew before, and it's also coming from the new Strange. Because
Okay, I see that. I just
and it's coming from these strange.
it was just funny.
But here's the thing: like you have no character growth, and then suddenly you have the power within you. Boom.
And then she
That's
suddenly
not
has
an arc.
control.
That's a cliff.
Yeah, that was.
And then suddenly she has full control.
She fully teleported on that story arc.
Yeah, to do that. And I was like, wait, what? You just jumped from level 3 to level 10.
Yeah. Well, and earlier they had also had a moment where she realized she could punch with the power when literally in the second scene of the movie
She did that.
she does that. So it was one of those things where I wonder if the CGI team was not supposed to put that in there and they did.
I don't know.
I don't know. Anyway, so she uses her ability that she magically can use now.
And I'm sorry, but the jump. Who taught this? Who was the stunt team? That was
the choreographer.
Could you have given her a
good.
stunt double, please?
They did. I guarantee you, she had a stunt double.
Well, whoever that stunt double was, the punches were weird.
They were horrible.
Like, ha.
There was there was very whatever. It was whatever. But she opens a portal to the home of.
So, Funky brings up. So yeah, we talked about this a little bit, but to spoil a bit of WandaVision and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which is no longer canon, but explained the Darkhold better. Personally, thought the Darkhold has corrupted her mind, and that was something that we talked about earlier. It's like they didn't bring that up at all.
In the movie they never explain it, and it's coming from this understanding from like a storytelling perspective that you already watched.
And
remembered everything that was produced before, which sometimes happens with campaigns where it's like, well, don't you remember that happened 3 campaigns ago or 2 campaigns ago or whatever?
Yeah.
And like, I've seen people talk about that struggle if you're working with the same group of people and you're playing in the same world.
Remember,
it's like,
2 years ago in the campaign, this
well, you
happened.
You see that with Critical Role in Exandria, where like they're playing in the same world, so everything that Matt Mercer established in campaign 1 is supposed to still have holding in campaign 3,
and everything that Abria said in Exandria Limited is now canon.
And what Brennan is going to be saying in Calamity.
How do you keep track of all
everything?
The lores?
Yeah,
and that is an issue, and that's where
it's hard.
Campaigns, it's hard. You can't go too deep, and you got to do reminders. Like there should have been a couple more minutes of Wong and Strange talking about the Darkhold and what it does.
Well, and giving Wong a better character, like just character foundation than the sidekick. I'm sorry, he's a Sorcerer Supreme.
He's not the sidekick anymore.
He's not the sidekick. Like they needed to pull him out of that space. Like that bothered me a lot. But whatever. That's
well, just, but they bring it up a couple of times. It's like, hey, Strange, you should be like treating me like Sorcerer Supreme, but I was the boss before, so I mean. Yeah,
no, I get it. But it's just
I hate the whole. There's no arc. Like there was no arc for America Chavez. There was really no arc for Strange.
Funky's right. The Critical Role has a rabid fan base. You are very right.
The wiki is extensive.
And they have Danny, whatever her last name is, who's actually in charge of keeping track of all of that.
And that's where I see those who were comic book fans, watched Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., watched WandaVision, stuff like that. For them, this is a lot easier. But
for someone like me, who I didn't watch all of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and I didn't watch WandaVision, and the vast majority of the viewership of the Marvel movies are not watching the TV shows.
There's not as many people watching the streaming as there is watching the movies.
Yeah.
And so you just kind of left them off. And it's like, oh.
And you didn't give them any
I don't get any of this. And it wouldn't have taken long.
No, it wouldn't have. To give America Chavez a couple of scenes that would have made us feel emotionally connected to her and her story arc. I mean, because if you can become emotionally connected to Luke Skywalker, who was a whiny little brat.
But I want to go get the power converter.
Exactly. In A New Hope, they could have figured out a way to make us emotionally attached to America Chavez, which they didn't. And it doesn't feel like they even tried, to be totally honest. So she somehow finds the ability to do this. And then this is where the antagonist destroys the antagonist. Because when you have an antagonist that is more powerful than everything in the universe combined, more powerful than Thanos, more powerful than pretty much anything else, it has to be the antagonist who destroys the antagonist.
It does.
The protagonists have no ability.
And in normal Wanda fashion, she actually doesn't do anything to help make up for everything she did.
Nope.
She just Samsons herself, as I love the way one guy said it. She just pulls down the building on top of herself.
Yeah,
because
she
could have gone back to Comatage and fixed the whole thing.
She could have fixed
freaking
everything.
reality.
She could have gone back. She could have fixed everything. She could have actually given reparations for what happened.
She could solve world hunger. She could
well, and
solve everything.
I also was kind of annoyed with the fact that they kept, and this is a technical thing with the film, it's not a film, it's a movie. Film is for top grade movies.
Shawshank Redemption.
Yes.
Godfather.
Green Mile.
Green Mile.
This is not a film. But they kept the exact same lighting. They kept the same ambiance and feel of the room after she had her transformation from wanting to take over the life of this other person to, okay, I have to destroy myself. There was nothing that separated those two things. And so it made it feel like, for me, that there was not actually a change that happened. But I know that they were trying to show that she realized she can't take herself in the other world. She can't replace the other mom.
Well, and again, if they had, this all goes back to that Stephen Strange in the other universe, who, he had messed with the Darkhold, so they had to kill him.
Mm-hmm.
But because they never explained within the context of this movie the full effects of what the Darkhold does, it feels hollow.
Yeah.
Because the idea is that because she's been so into the Darkhold, she is not under control of her own mind anymore. So it's like a moment of clarity.
Yeah. When
you've been possessed, where you're suddenly then going to kill yourself in order to prevent the monster from coming out again. But they had never portrayed it that way. Even her acting of it had always presented this as a logical thing, not being controlled at all by the Darkhold.
Yeah, and
so nothing in the performance gives that.
No, she seems like she's gone kind of just off the deep end, and she's had a psychotic break. That's the way it looked. From someone who has not seen.
That's what happened in WandaVision, was that. And that was WandaVision.
Yeah,
but
she
that
had a psychotic break.
Then the Darkhold is nothing. The Darkhold then is just power. It doesn't actually have an effect, which there needed to be something more in my mind than just the crazy of WandaVision.
So then what did the Darkhold actually give? Because that's the question, is what power can the Darkhold actually give anyone if this is just who Wanda was and she was that powerful to begin with?
And that's the thing, she wasn't. The Darkhold, and this is again where not enough was given in short bursts. Like I said, we'll need to go watch. I know you don't want to watch all of WandaVision. The experience of the mother losing her family is, you're like, I don't want to.
Yeah, I'm not interested.
I don't want to cry through a bunch of episodes. But I can show you the episodes where they go into that. And suddenly probably it'll all make sense. But they could have taken 3 minutes.
Well, and even as
3 freaking minutes.
Even if you write sequels to a novel, if you're writing like a trilogy or something,
you have to reference.
You create foundational information in each book to remind the readers, hey, you probably have forgotten, so I'm going to remind you. The best example of this that I can think of that is very simple and very quickly done is in the Harry Potter books.
Okay.
At the beginning of each of the Harry Potter books, until you get to 6 and 7, there is the first 2 chapters are basically rebuilding the
Formula?
foundation of the world and what Harry's doing.
And the Dursleys.
Shorter, and the Dursleys. It gets shorter and shorter and shorter with each book until it's non-existent by like book 6. But it's giving a foundation at the beginning of, hey, you probably forgot this.
You know, thinking about it, you could, like, even if you started midway through, like, you know, in book 2 or 3, the beginning intros generally do give you enough to be able to be like, okay, I know what's going on.
Especially episodic book series like the Harry Dresden Files,
Yes.
the Dresden Files, or the Mercy Thompson series. There's always these, in the first 2 chapters, there's always a moment of
you don't need to worry
giving you
about
a foundation.
Spoilers for WandaVision, but they should have done a lot more with the Darkhold instead of the amen.
Yeah.
To that. The Darkhold is this big, huge thing, and it's like we relegated it to, like, the Darkhold is the equivalent of the ring in Lord of the Rings. Like, it's that big, and it's poo-poo. It gets a full season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Of the Darkhold and all that it does.
It can do.
Yeah. Like, so it's one of those things of downplaying the big thing. And this is, I think about this a lot because we're getting to the last arcs of our campaign. I'm going to be doing the end, bringing things back from earlier in our campaign
from like a year ago.
Yeah, from like a year ago. So I have to start peppering back in things to remind people of what was before, and then making sure I don't retcon.
Yeah.
But I also reestablish. I have to reestablish each of these relationships. And I know that I have to do that in order for the end to have any meaning at all. And they didn't do that.
They didn't. You don't care. So, I mean, she basically brings the mountain. Wanda brings the mountain down on herself because she is the antagonist, realizes she has to defeat herself. So she defeats herself. The zombie body is left there. The Sorcerer Supreme dude. What? I forgot his name. Anyway, the friend dude who's the Sorcerer Supreme, like, he manages to be saved and, like, yay for the day.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Which, Funky the Foolish Warlock, I really wish they had done the Ghost Rider. Ghost Rider in the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Ghost Rider takes the Darkhold into the Hell Dimension.
Oh my gosh, that would have been way cool.
It's
Ghost Rider was a good movie. The first one. Not the second one. The second one was not very good. The first one was good.
Yeah. Ghost Rider in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I like way better.
Well, I'm sure he's better. But like for a movie, I actually really enjoyed it. And the casting that they got for those 2 characters to be young kids and like building their relationship when they were kids was incredible.
You know, I gotta go back and watch. I have not watched Nicolas Cage Ghost Rider.
That was Nicolas Cage doing a good job. And when Nicolas Cage does a good job, he does a good job. And when he does a bad job, it's the worst thing ever. I really do want to see the movie though that just came out with them with his. I've heard it's really really.
But
good.
this again. So let's try and kind of sum.
So ending. No, hold on. The ending of the movie. I don't even remember how the movie ended.
The way the movie ended is that they go back. She now has complete 100% control, apparently, to jump to whatever dimension she wants to.
Yeah. Funky agrees with me. Nick Cage's Ghost Rider was fantastic casting. It was so good. Funky, you have to come back and like just agree with me more. Because like the chat gangs up on me sometimes on these Monday night streams.
But she has full control now because he said, I believe in you.
Yeah. Well, no, she doesn't because they're trying to teach her the wizardy thing.
They're teaching her wizardy thing now, but she has the ability to jump to the right reality apparently like that.
Did they say that?
But she does it. The next time she punches through, it's to the exact right place.
It does?
Yeah.
When? At the very end?
Yeah. Her and Wong now need to travel, and she punches through, and it's like, oh, look, there's the right dimension and everything like that. So then they go through, and then she's got to send everyone back. Yeah, she's able to go through to the exact...
Oh, before they get to back to the...
Yeah, before they get
there.
there.
Yeah.
And then they go back to Comitage.
Yeah.
And
that's how Wong was protected.
And then they're like, okay, we're going back to Comitage, which Wanda demolished, but apparently most of them are still alive.
Yeah,
supposedly
she like killed literally everyone. This is another Mary Sue. Yeah.
Another Mary Sue?
I understand it. I don't know how to explain it.
Okay, it's all right. I will look into it later.
No. Jerome, just explain in the chat what Mary Sue means.
All right. But they go back to Comitage, and now, she's going to learn to be...
She's going to learn how to be a wizard.
Wizard, Harry.
You're going to be a wizard, America.
Yeah. Which, why weren't you doing that earlier?
Why were they not training her? That is just that's the biggest problem that I have.
Why weren't we doing that earlier? I don't know.
There's so many things in this. But, so, Doctor Strange leaves, and then he goes and has... Wong is the best thing about MCU in Phase 4.
But they downplay him.
They downplay him, and that's a problem that I have, is they turn him into the quirky the quirky sidekick. Like, it really bothers me. Unrealistically lacking in flaws. Yeah, that's it. Yes. She's not a strong woman so much as an insufferable Mary Sue. And a lot of people had that critique about Captain Marvel. They had a problem with her because she was basically invincible.
Yeah, there's a type of female character who is depicted as unrealistically lacking in flaws or weaknesses. Well, in all truth, she just had nothing to... She did nothing.
Yeah, America did nothing.
Like,
literally,
you could have
the whole movie.
You could have thrown any other mechanism to let him jump realities.
Mm-hmm.
And a power source that she could have used to jump realities. And she would not have been...
Yeah.
She could have been a book. She could have been a book that lets you gave you a spell to jump to different multiverses. And Doctor Strange had it, and Wanda wanted it, and so he used it to jump different realities, and it would have been the same
They treat her like an object.
She is an object.
Mm-hmm. Until the very end, when suddenly she is a magical item that the adventurers went on an adventure to get. So then we see at the very, very end of the movie, we see Doctor Strange in the city in New York, and
he's got a third eye.
No, we don't. That happens in the No, I want to just talk about from a movie perspective. This has nothing to do with TTRPGs. Okay, Charlize Theron shows up and is like, hey, you have to come help me save the multiverse unless you're too scared. Like, what the actual hell?
See, and I just see it as it's Doc. Marty, we gotta do something about your kids.
Seriously, that and her costume.
Was awful.
Once I saw this, I couldn't unsee it. But her costume looks like Ivan Ooze from Power Rangers.
Oh my gosh, it does.
Go find. There are comparison pictures side by side that are hysterical. Please go find them. So, and that's when we see that he has a third eye. Like, oh my gosh. America was a MacGuffin. I don't know what that is referencing.
It's a story. It's a story item. It's a thing you've got to go get.
Oh, Charlize Theron looked incredible. Like, incredible. She always looks incredible. She is a stunningly beautiful woman. But, like, that was the cheesiest entrance of, like, anyone.
Here's Ivan Ooze.
So yeah, that's kind of Ivan Ooze. And then...
What's her character's name?
I don't know. She's Clea. Daughter of Dormammu.
She's Dormammu.
She's the daughter of Dormammu. I know. Doesn't she end up becoming Doctor Strange's wife, though? So then it's a Doctor Strange, and then she's going to have her own movie as Doctor Strange. Right? Am I crazy?
I imagine they'll replace. Yeah, I think that they'll be what they replace. I'm not finding the comparison.
Oh, okay. I will go find it at some point. I know that they are out there. The comparisons are out there.
But yeah, she ends up in the comics. Doctor Strange eventually is gone.
It was just the cheesy nature.
Yeah, it was cheesy.
Of that, like, unless you're too scared, or like, unless you're afraid. Like, that was the stupidest. Oh my gosh. Okay. I know. Ivan Ooze really was a great villain.
What, he was?
He was a great villain. For Power Rangers, he was an awesome villain.
Okay. For Power
He's
Rangers.
a better villain than any of the other, like, our boys. We have 3
I still
little
love
boys.
Zed, who doesn't have any skin.
Zed is amazing.
Who has no
Zed is
skin.
amazing, who has no skin. And has a random metal thing on his body. Our 3 boys are very into Power Rangers, so we've watched a lot of the iterations
and we
of
have
them.
the Switch video game.
Yeah, with the Switch video game, and it's fun. It's kind of fun to relive my childhood a little bit from that. Oh yay! You got another 5 points. You have 10 points now. You can drop a bomb on someone.
Yep. So yeah, all right. I think that we
for the wrap up of storytelling, Doctor Strange is a great example of not spending enough time to allow the story to develop naturally and not giving it breathing room.
Well, and this is where if you are a GM and you're doing a story, combat, I know everyone loves most people love combat and want, to go from combat and counter, but give it some time.
Look, I like combat, okay? It's not that I don't like combat. It's just that I would prefer to do role play than combat.
Yep. So give yourself time for that development. NPCs, if this is an important NPC or something like that, you got to endear them quickly. In
that first interaction, you have to endear them quickly. So take the 5-minute rule and applying it to your games within that first, maybe the first interaction, possibly the second interaction with an important NPC, you have to endear them to the party in some way.
Yep. Also, you got to have somewhere to grow. Funky, the Polish, the foolish warlock. You say, issue is that Wanda, Strange, and Captain Marvel all could have handled the Thanos problem. A big part of the issue with this movie is that these are all level 20 characters.
Yeah.
There's nowhere to go.
Yeah.
There's nothing.
And she ends up killing off all of these other characters that are supposed to be incredibly powerful from the Illuminati. Like,
OP'd bad guys and OP'd players. There's a reason why no one does level 20 campaigns.
You don't do it. Although I did hear once of a campaign idea that I thought was fascinating to run.
What was it?
Is a reverse campaign where you start at level 20 and you slowly go down to level 1.
How would you do that? What would be the mechanism to cause you to lose?
I don't know, but that was an idea that I had heard once, and I was like, oh, that would be fascinating. And that every level you lose a feat and you lose abilities.
Because you got
that could be so. It's like a Benjamin Button situation. Like, that would be so freaking cool, though, because it'd be interesting and different.
That would be. But anyway. So those, I give time for story growth. Endear your NPCs quickly. If you find an NPC that endears quickly, use them.
Flip to the other screen. That's really important. Also, giving characters the amount of time that they need to develop them as characters within the campaign is crucial.
This movie needed another 25 minutes.
It did. And that 25 minutes may have been left on the editing room floor. That it might have all been editing, because that does happen where editing for a movie is just done poorly.
It can kill a movie.
Yeah, well, and changing directors is also difficult when you start a project with one idea and end up having to switch it for somebody else's idea. That's also hard. But you know, we can learn a lot of really good things from this movie of how to properly build a story. Oh,
Dropped a bomb.
Dropped a bomb. It's very...
Could have been a lot better.
It could have been so much better, and I think we were all hoping it was going to be much better.
Well,
much better.
after Spider-Man, expectations were high.
Yeah, and Spider-Man, no... Oh my gosh, I suddenly have like weird hiccupy things.
Yes, I agree. It needed more time. It was a big enough fantasy with enough lore that it needed a second movie. Probably would have been good.
Yeah, a part 1 and part 2. At the very least, having a clear first, second, and third act, that needed to happen, because it felt like there was a first act and a second act, and that was it. And for true resolution, there's a reason there's trilogies. There's a reason that we look at life in threes.
Well, I see
like,
there was 3, because there was the section where they're in our world, then there's the section where they're in the Illuminati world, and then there's the final confrontations.
I guess you could split it that way, but there
That's how
weren't.
most people
See, because
split
you
it.
have to break each arc down, or each act down, into 3 acts themselves. And you have to have the climax. Like, from a storytelling, like from an analytical standpoint, this it was missing a lot of things. And I've become a very analytical writer, which is weird, but anyway.
But I'm also very tired.
I know we've gone way past what we
past.
normally do for Monday night.
So thank you all so very much for being here for this analysis.
Yes.
I hope we can all learn from every form of storytelling to become better storytellers ourselves.
Yeah. And if you guys liked this, let us know. Like, just put like a thumbs up in the chat, or like a smiley face or something. If you would like us to do stuff like this in the future as well, where we break down and analyze storytelling from popular movies or books too, we could do that. Like, this was really fun for me. I feel like we could start a second show just breaking down famous movies and how to use them.
Well, we could do older ones, so we're not having to worry.
We
as
could
much
start
about
at the very beginning of the MCU and go through all of the movies and break down every one for story.
I might actually prefer to go through just movies that were really good storytelling.
Okay, so we'll just skip all the Thor movies. We have to do the Thor movies, because then we can do the whole like, this is bad. I love Thor.
Maybe we should do This Is Bad with the Dungeons and Dragons movies.
Oh my gosh, yes. The actual yes. Oh my gosh, we need to totally do that.
All right.
Anyway,
Thank
go
you
party
all so
to
very
good night
much.
with a
I've
little.
gotta go to bed.
Okay, we at least have one person that thinks we should do this again. Thank you, Jerome. Nobody else wants to jump back over to this screen and give us the thumbs up.
Nobody's on. We're all done. All right,
guys.
Thank you all so very much for being here. It was a wonderful evening.
And remember that we have our actual play on Friday that we're starting up on our campaign after 2 weeks of special programming. We are back to our regular campaign on Friday.
Yes, we will.
And it's going to be super fun. So I want it on the D&D movie. Yeah,
yes.
Okay.
Amen
We may actually do that. That'll be super fun. Anyway, thanks so much, you guys. And remember, it only takes 2. Good night.